Welcome to your Shadow channel. Now we will tell another chilling horror story. Tonight, we delve into horror stories about 3 horror stories at night school in London. Are you ready to get scared? Let's begin. The first story is about the Phantom Professor. Martha had always dreamed of studying history at one of London's prestigious night schools. The Victorian-era building, with its ivy-covered walls and grand, creaking hallways, exuded an air of mystery and tradition. She was particularly excited about a course rumored to be taught by the enigmatic Professor Whitaker, whose lectures were legendary. However, on her first day, she learned from fellow students that Professor Whitaker had died tragically in a car accident 10 years ago. Undeterred by the whispers and warnings from other students, Martha attended her first lecture. To her surprise, Professor Whitaker was there, seemingly alive and well. He was a tall man with a commanding presence, his graying hair neatly combed, and his piercing blue eyes sparkling with intellect. His lectures were mesmerizing, filled with vivid stories and detailed analyses that made history come alive. She found herself drawn to his passion for the subject. One evening, Martha stayed late to finish an assignment in the empty library. The night was quiet, the only sound being the distant hum of the city outside. As the hours passed, she noticed an unsettling stillness settling over the school. The dim lights cast long shadows, and the air grew colder. She shrugged it off and continued working, determined to finish her paper. Around midnight, she heard faint whispers and the sound of chalk on a blackboard. The noise seemed to come from down the corridor. Intrigued and a little uneasy, Martha decided to investigate. She walked through the darkened halls, the sound growing louder with each step. She followed it to a classroom door that was slightly ajar, the room bathed in an eerie glow. Peeking inside, she saw Professor Whitaker alone in the classroom, writing feverishly on the blackboard. The date on the board was from a decade ago, the night of his death. He seemed oblivious to her presence, his back turned as he scribbled notes and diagrams with frantic energy. Gathering her courage, Martha stepped into the room and called out to him, "Professor Whitaker." He turned slowly, his face pale and eyes hollow. "You shouldn't be here," he whispered, his voice echoing as if from a great distance. The room grew colder, and Martha felt a chill down her spine. Before she could react, the professor vanished, leaving only the sound of echoing footsteps and a faint scent of chalk in the air. Terrified, Martha ran to the headmaster's office and recounted her experience. The headmaster, a stern man with a grave expression, listened intently before revealing the school's dark secret. Professor Whitaker had indeed died in that classroom while preparing for a lecture. He had been deeply dedicated to his students, so much so that his spirit became bound to the school, doomed to continue teaching forever. The headmaster showed Martha a photograph of Professor Whitaker, taken just days before his death. It was the same man she had seen in the classroom. The realization that she had been attending lectures from a ghost sent shivers down her spine. Martha dropped out the next day, unable to bear the thought of returning to the haunted halls. Years later, rumors of Professor Whitaker's ghost persisted. New students often spoke of the mysterious figure who appeared in the history classroom late at night. Some claimed to have seen him writing on the blackboard, while others heard his whispered lectures echoing through the empty corridors. Despite these tales, the school continued to operate, its dark secret a chilling reminder of the price of dedication and the haunting persistence of the past. The second story is about the study group. Jake, Claire, and Liam were inseparable friends, united by their ambition and shared goal of excelling at their London night school. The school, housed in a historic building with labyrinthine corridors and Gothic architecture, was both inspiring and eerie, especially during their late-night study sessions. Determined to ace their exams, the trio often stayed late, working tirelessly in the school's old, dimly lit library. One evening, as they were poring over textbooks and notes, Claire noticed a peculiar draft coming from behind a tall, dusty bookshelf in the corner of the library. Intrigued, she called Jake and Liam over. Together, they moved the bookshelf, revealing a hidden passageway. The narrow, cobweb-covered passage beckoned them with an air of mystery and adventure. With a mixture of excitement and trepidation, they ventured inside, their footsteps echoing against the cold stone walls. At the end of the passage, they found a small, hidden room. The room was filled with ancient, dusty books, strange artifacts, and cryptic symbols carved into the walls. A heavy sense of foreboding hung in the air. Claire's eyes were drawn to a book bound in black leather, its cover adorned with strange, silver symbols. She picked it up, feeling an icy chill run through her fingers. As she opened the book, she saw it was filled with cryptic texts and dark diagrams. The room seemed to grow colder, and a low, ominous hum filled the air. Suddenly, the door slammed shut, trapping them inside. The lights flickered, casting long, sinister shadows that danced on the walls. Panic set in as they tried to open the door, but it wouldn't budge. The air grew thick with an unexplainable, oppressive presence. Reading from the book, Claire inadvertently triggered a ritual. The ancient words she uttered resonated in the room, and a dark, swirling mist began to gather. The mist coalesced into a shadowy figure with glowing red eyes, the spirit of a former student who had practiced dark magic and met a grim fate. The spirit, a young man with hollow eyes and a twisted grin, spoke in a voice that seemed to reverberate through their very souls. "You have awakened me," he said. "Complete the ritual, or suffer the consequences." Terrified, the trio tried to reason with the spirit, but he was adamant. The room grew colder, and the shadows deepened, as if the darkness itself was closing in on them. The spirit demanded they follow the ancient texts to finish what had been started long ago. With no other options, Jake, Claire, and Liam reluctantly began performing the incantations and rituals described in the book. Each chant made the spirit grow stronger, its form becoming more solid and menacing. The atmosphere grew increasingly oppressive, and a sense of dread filled their hearts. In a desperate bid to break the ritual, Liam grabbed the book from Claire's trembling hands and threw it into a nearby fireplace. As the book caught fire, the spirit let out a blood-curdling scream that echoed through the hidden room. The flames consumed the book, and the spirit began to writhe and twist in agony, its form disintegrating into the air. The room returned to its normal, albeit still eerie, state. The oppressive presence lifted, and the door creaked open on its own. The trio, shaken and pale, fled the library, vowing never to speak of the incident again. Despite their pact of silence, strange occurrences continued to haunt them. Jake began seeing shadows moving in his room at night, flickering just beyond his vision. Claire heard faint whispers in the darkness, voices calling her name. Liam felt an unseen presence following him, cold fingers brushing against his skin when he was alone. They soon realized that they had only banished the spirit temporarily. It was now bound to them, seeking revenge for their interruption. The once tight-knit friends became isolated, each consumed by their own haunting experiences. The dark magic they had unwittingly unleashed continued to plague them, a sinister reminder of the dangers hidden within the ancient walls of their London night school. The third story is about the last bell. Night classes at St. Mary's College were known for their rigorous curriculum and excellent instructors. The college, an imposing Gothic structure with towering spires and ivy-covered walls, was steeped in history and legend. Emily, a dedicated student, often stayed late to study in the quiet solitude of the empty classrooms. The ancient building, with its echoing halls and flickering gas lamps, took on an eerie atmosphere after dark. One evening, after her friends had left, Emily decided to finish an important assignment. She settled into her usual spot in an old, wood-paneled classroom on the third floor. The room, with its creaking floorboards and large windows overlooking the moonlit courtyard, was lit only by a dim overhead light. As she worked, her attention was drawn to a peculiar bell on a desk in the back of the room. The bell was old and tarnished, with strange, intricate engravings that looked like runes. It seemed out of place among the modern educational tools. Emily felt an inexplicable urge to examine it closer. Curiosity got the better of her, and she picked up the bell. It felt unusually heavy and cold to the touch. On an impulse, she gave it a gentle ring. The sound was clear and resonant, echoing unnaturally long in the silent room. Almost immediately, the temperature dropped, and a cold breeze swept through the room, extinguishing the light. Emily's heart pounded as she fumbled for her phone to use as a flashlight. The room was pitch black, and the darkness seemed to press in on her. When she finally managed to turn on the light, she gasped. Standing at the front of the class was a pale, ghostly figure of a young girl in a tattered school uniform. The girl's eyes were hollow and filled with sorrow. Her presence radiated a chilling cold that seeped into Emily's bones. "Who are you?" Emily managed to whisper, her voice trembling. The girl's voice was soft, barely audible. "My name is Annabelle. I was a student here, long ago." Emily listened, transfixed, as Annabelle told her tragic story. She had been a bright and promising student, but a terrible fire had consumed the school many years ago. Annabelle had perished in the flames, trapped in this very classroom. To make matters worse, she had been falsely accused of starting the fire, and her spirit was bound to the bell as punishment, unable to find peace. Over the next few nights, Annabelle appeared regularly, sharing more details of her life and the injustice she had suffered. Emily felt a deep sense of empathy for the tormented spirit and resolved to help her. She spent hours in the school archives, poring over old records and newspapers, determined to clear Annabelle's name. Finally, Emily found the evidence she needed. Hidden in a stack of old newspapers was a report revealing the true cause of the fire: faulty wiring in the school's ancient electrical system. Annabelle had been wrongly accused all these years. Armed with this information, Emily approached the headmaster and persuaded him to arrange a memorial service to honor Annabelle and set the record straight. On the night of the service, the entire school gathered in the courtyard. Emily brought the bell and placed it at the center of the ceremony. The headmaster spoke solemnly about the tragedy and the wrongful blame placed on Annabelle. As he finished, a warm light enveloped the area, and Annabelle's spirit appeared one last time, her face serene and grateful. "Thank you," she whispered to Emily. The warmth of her presence was a stark contrast to the cold that had accompanied her before. Annabelle smiled, her form shimmering in the light before slowly fading away, finally at peace. The bell, now silent and no longer a vessel for Annabelle's spirit, was placed in the school's trophy case as a reminder of the tragic past and the spirit that had been freed. Emily continued her studies, her encounters with Annabelle having profoundly changed her. She felt a deep connection to the school's history and a renewed determination to honor the memory of those who had suffered within its walls. The haunting presence was gone, but the lessons of compassion and justice remained, echoing through the halls of St. Mary's College. These are just one of the many horror stories. There are many more out there, waiting to be discovered and told. Do you have any horror stories of your own? Share them in the comments below, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more spooky content. Until next time, stay safe and stay curious. Bye.